Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Ready, Set, Shag. We're here today on a awesome Monday morning. The weather kind of cooled down for me today, but spring is in the air, at least around me. Uh, we took a couple weeks off from the show, but I appreciate everyone coming in. Uh, Today, I'm joined by a guest who's been on. He was one of my first guests on this podcast back in May of 2023. I would like to welcome back Mr. Adam B. Coleman. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Not bad. I do want to apologize. Adam informed me pre-show that he usually is sleeping at this time, so I want to apologize for keeping you up late. But I've been wanting to get back and talking with you here. Uh, for a few reasons. One, well, your new show on YouTube that you've been doing, Breaking Bread, which I think is an awesome concept, and been enjoying when I can.
Thank you.
And then just kind of catch up and see where you're at. Last time we talked, you were talking about writing another book. You have your book that's right behind you there. But before we kind of get into it, give people who don't know you, give a quick intro and what you do and who you are.
Sure. What's the best way of putting it? Because I feel like I have like four jobs and six titles. I don't know. I'm a writer first and foremost. I'm an author of the book behind me, Black Victim, Black Victor. Um, and I frequently write for the New York Post and other publications, but the New York Post the most, I would say, at least once a week. I'm submitting something to them. And yeah, I just try to write everywhere I go. I'm popping up on TV stations every so often internationally. Um, and I'm now doing the video content with Breaking Bread, the video series encouraging conversations over some food. And yeah, and I was it a handful of years ago. I was just an IT guy sitting in his office and doing his thing.
Yeah.
Now I'm in the media.
What and most importantly, I would say, well, not most importantly, but a big change. I mean, you've lost a lot of weight since the last time we talked. It looks like you've kind of, you know, grabbed your health and kind of beat it into submission a little bit. How's that journey been for you?
It's been good. I so the at the most I lost 75 pounds,
Wow.
and then so I've added a little bit because so this you asked like what I've been up to. I signed I signed a modeling contract for
For real?
yeah, I'm serious, but it's for workout wear.
Okay.
Um, I can't say too much because I signed an NDA, but it will be out in a matter of a few weeks, and you'll see the whole campaign and everything. Um, but in preparation for that, because I knew about it in December, I got with a trainer friend of mine and I started just doing strictly weight training to try and because I've been mostly fasting and stuff like that. I was working out, but not in a purposeful way.
Yeah.
And so I started strength training for about 2.5, 3 months. And then I just shot the we did the photo shoot a couple weeks ago in Nashville. So I filmed some episodes out there, 4 episodes actually. And actually I got sick as soon as I came back. So I haven't been to the gym since. So I'm like 98%.
Okay.
But I'm trying to get back to the gym. I wanted to go back today, but probably tomorrow.
I keep saying that too. Yeah, tomorrow. I'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
My new cat's making a special guest appearance here. We just adopted her the other day. And she's really very skittish right now. Like she gets really lovey, but then all of a sudden she'll disappear and like go in the closet in my spare bedroom. And she will not interact with our other cat. She'll just growl at him. But anyways, no, The journey with weight loss is kind of crazy. And I mean, congratulations, on losing that much to begin with, because that's not an easy task.
Thank
But also, like, the modeling thing, like, from IT guy sitting in an office to
you.
TV personality to, writer, and now model. Like, you've done just about everything. You're gonna run for president next?
Oh God, no. No, the next thing I'm trying to do is well, just so you know, I made an announcement. So I'm doing a second edition of Black Victim, Black Victor.
Really?
It's not a So I try to make clear this is not like it's an extended version or anything crazy like that. Um, Understand, like when I wrote this book, I had an editor that fell through. And
Okay.
so myself and my wife were the ones who edited the book. We went through it over and over and over, but this is not our forte.
Right.
And so we basically, I had somebody who offered to help me to edit it um, in a more professional way. And so we're going through that. And I figured if we're doing this, might as well just kind of republish it as a second edition, as an edition that's uh, properly treated, I guess, or better
Okay.
properly treated. Not that
Okay.
it was horrible, not that there was like tons of mistakes, but yeah, there are a few, and or there are areas where um, it could have been maybe better stated,
Okay.
you know. So it's just kind of cleaning it up because I do want this book to be utilized in a more serious manner, and whether it be in schools or whether it be in colleges, like I already know it's in schools, it's in some schools.
Really?
um, I mean, for one, I donated 30 copies to a teacher um, on I met on Twitter, so I know it's in a school.
Yeah.
uh, but I'm pretty sure, because I've talked to some other teachers, I'm pretty sure the book has popped up in
Yeah.
random schools here and there. Um, and actually, funny, I never really talked about this. It was a neighbor of my in-laws. I think their daughter had like come home from college,
Mhm.
and they were like talking. I wasn't there, so I'm just hearing this like secondhand
Secondhand.
information. But they were talking about me and like, oh yeah, he's doing it, and he wrote a book. Oh, what's the book? And she's like, I'm pretty sure I know somebody who has that book at my college. So I was like, oh, okay. So I guess my book might be at someone's college somewhere. I don't know.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah. So, but I just figured if I re-release it um, in a better constructed manner than the original, and just kind of call it a day and move forward with it. And then the next book, I started writing. I was hoping to have done by now, but
Mhm.
I just got too busy. But I want to try to pitch it to a bigger publisher,
Okay.
um, see if they bite, and kind of take it from there. But I already have the concept. I have everything down. I started writing it, probably a few chapters. I started writing. Um, so I just need to actually literally take the time to do the book proposal.
Yeah.
But I have a solid idea. If I do it correctly, which I believe I can, I don't know any other book that's like it.
Now I'm intrigued. I want to ask you all about it. Is there, like, can you give it? Can you dangle any other carrots, like,
Yeah,
for us? Or okay.
yeah. I mean, for one, there's not going to be any other book like it because it's going to tell my story,
Mhm.
but tell it in a much deeper way than I did in the first book. Um, it's going to read like a memoir, but much like the first book, it's going to link into things that we're seeing in society.
Oh, cool.
Um, so I'm going to make that connection, likely lead with something that happened to me as a child and link it into a bigger societal issue
Mhm.
that happened. So um, that's what I mean. Like, it's going to be unique, one, because it's my story. No one else has my story.
Mhm.
But it's going to be unique because it's talking about the impact of fatherlessness in a very deep and and I guess like in sort of a poetic way.
Yeah.
Um, I have some writer friends I sent like some samples to, and they said like the way you wrote it is very poetic sounding, and but it's very deep, it's very emotional,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to go for that, like when someone tells me they read my book and they said they cried, I know when they cried.
Hmm.
So I already know that the way I'm writing it and all the different things that happened to me as a kid, and if I like really describe every emotion that I felt in great detail, um, like this is going to be like a tearjerker kind of a book,
Yeah.
but it's going to be like really important for people to really understand. Because the reason I talk about fatherlessness so much is because I feel like even the people who bring it up, it's like a tagline,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
like fatherless behavior. It's just
Yeah.
something that they throw out. If we're lucky, they just acknowledge it and just kind of move on.
Right.
But I don't think we talk enough in detail as to like the turmoil, the mental, the downward mental health that it can have on kids.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and even with fatherlessness, I say that, but at the same time, I'm talking about a family separation.
Mhm.
So I do want to talk about divorce, um, in the book somehow, but just the how our families being separated is impacting our children in a detrimental way. And so I want to use my story in a incredibly detailed and incredibly like emotional way,
Yeah.
so people like fully understand like what happened to me and how I felt wasn't good. And as much as this book might make you cry and how you feel, it actually could have been worse.
True. Yeah. Okay. It's funny you're saying like how some people just kind of throw terms around, like, oh, it's just like this is a project of fatherlessness, and never really go into like what that means. I feel like it's a big thing that happens a lot with, like, it's one of the reasons I kind of stay off of Twitter, because I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of that happens there where people are like, well, it's because of this, and I'm like, okay, well, let's go into that. Let's extrapolate on what that might mean or why that might be. And maybe Twitter's not the place for it,
Yeah.
but people, I just think there's a lot of, I mean, I guess there's a lot of commentators out there who don't want to break into the nuance of what's going on. And I think your new show, Breaking Bread, like allows for you guys to like get into the minutia, right? Like get into like what something might be. Now it's might not be a show that you ever sit down with someone you disagree with. It's a little hard to maybe have a meal with someone you aren't.
Oh, I have.
Oh, have you really? I guess I didn't see that one. Which
Yeah.
so
Well,
how did
see,
that one
that's
go?
so the objective. I felt like this, and this is what I'm trying to do is like mimic what most people would do if they go out to dinner with somebody,
Mhm.
even with someone that they disagree with. They
Yeah.
usually don't try to argue their points. They're usually trying to find somewhere they agree.
Yeah.
So, actually, the episode I just published today um, was with a Democratic strategist, and I went to her place in DC, and she's a little bit left, she's a little bit further left than like a liberal, maybe on the progressive edge,
Yeah.
um, but she's very nice,
Yeah.
she's very cordial, and she invited me into her home. We set up cameras, and I had a relationship with her, as far as like a cordial relationship with her before. So when I reached out to her and asked her, hey, can we do this, she said sure, absolutely. And after that, we talked for maybe like an hour and a half, and not one time did I say I disagree. What I did was, and she listen. I listened back to. I had to edit it. There were things that she said, and I would be like, I don't know exactly, but that's not the point. The point is like I would add in. I was like, yeah, I can see what you're saying, and I would just add that, and I would just say that, and she's like, oh, okay. And
Right.
then there are times I would say stuff and she's nodding her head. She's like, yeah, exactly. Because I'm finding the areas that we agree upon, right? And there are things that she might criticize about the right, and I'm like, yeah, I feel the same way about the right, you know, and
Yeah.
so we can agree on those things. But at the end of the conversation, like I felt like it brought us closer, and I know we want to work on something together, um, but I think there are a lot of overlaps between the political spectrums
Mm.
as far as we agree that this is a problem. We might not necessarily agree on how to fix it, and that's fine. We can't always agree on different things, but the fact that both sides care about the same issue and they want to have some sort of resolution, well then I think that's a good start, and it's just trying to find it. So I have no problem talking to someone who is on the left, someone who's a Democrat. You know, Isaiah, Isaiah Carter,
Yeah.
he's a Democrat. And he's my boy.
Yeah.
We've done 2 episodes together. Jason Anderson, we all three of us filmed together. Jason is still a Democrat,
Yeah.
right? And we don't have to Jason's a Democrat, we don't have to do any of that stuff, but they are.
Yeah.
And we can sit down and talk about and be concerned about the same stuff. And I think that's ultimately what I'm trying to do. And also, I'll tell you this: we're probably 4 weeks away, because I'm trying to do like an episode a week.
Yeah.
But the episode with Chloe Cole is the best episode that I filmed,
Okay.
because I showed a screenshot of it where we're just sitting on the same couch, and just looking at each other, chilling and talking, and we're both talking about what happened to us as kids,
Hmm.
essentially. And she was so relaxed, and she had such a good conversation that, and I'm going to leave it in the video. She's like, "How long have we been talking for?" And I said, "Oh, like an hour and 20." She's like, "I thought we were talking for 30 minutes."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's because it's so casual and so relaxed, and I'm just trying to understand where she's coming from, and we're having a dialogue, and sometimes it's serious, and then sometimes there's a point where she talks about a dream that she had, and it was funny, and we were laughing.
Yeah.
So it's very. I don't plan anything other than, like, I might ask for you to introduce yourself, but outside of that, the conversation goes where it goes. But I don't want to debate people. Like, I just want to have a dialogue with them.
Well, that's what's funny is like, so I've jumped onto like TikTok lives, and because they like allow people to like just go into these live streams now, and you like, there's so many debates that are set up. But
Mhm.
what I've realized is that they're not, well, I realized two things. One, I don't want to debate people. And two, they're not really like looking for a resolution. They're looking for
Right.
money, or they're looking, for, just points on the board. And but that I like you, I thought, I just want to like, if I were to jump into one of these lives, I would almost preface it by saying, I don't care about your linguistic points. I just want to talk to you as if we're a human, because everyday people don't talk like this. They don't talk in debates, like
Right.
it's not like you go to the you don't sit down with a friend who might be a Democrat, and then all of a sudden, you throw your yarmulke on and you're Ben Shapiro, and then you have, the counter on the other side, you have Destiny on the other side, or whatever. Like, it's, you sit down as two normal people just as you do, and you just talk about things, or you don't, like, things sort of like, you sort of like tangentially touch these subjects, and
Right.
you know what I mean? And that's why I'm so interested in your show and how it's gone. And also wanted to ask, like, how different have you noticed these conversations are than like this? Like, sitting here is good and talking, but
Mhm.
it, what's how has it been sitting down face to face with all these people?
You can't replicate human interaction in person. you can get close, like me and you were obviously having this conversation,
Right.
but it's not the same feeling, right? Because you feel like, especially after a really good conversation, you feel a bond,
Yeah.
and it's like, especially when you have a deep conversation with someone, like I feel a little bit of an affinity with the people I've sat down with. Like, I don't know if you know James Zimmerman.
I know the
Um,
name. I couldn't tell you
you know
much
what I mean?
about him. Yeah.
We sat down and we had phone calls, and obviously we follow each other on Twitter, but you can't replicate our experience where he comes over to my Airbnb for the conversation, and he brings over bread that he made. And he's like,
Wow.
he's like, because he's really into like the, I don't know what they call it, but like the artisan type of bread,
Hmm.
and where they, bake it for hours, and it's sort of, and it was the best bread I've ever had in my life.
Yeah. Yep.
and and he's like, if we're breaking bread, I figured I'd bring some bread. And he basically brought dinner over, and we sat there and we ate together, and we're just talking, and the conversation goes into fatherhood, and he's opening up about how, what he went through after getting canceled and things like that. And there's an emotional bond I think we built,
Mhm.
where it's like, bro, you got my number, you can reach out to me anytime.
Yeah.
um and same thing goes for all these other people, same thing with Chloe. Just, you feel a little bit closer to someone. It's not like when you do a whole bunch of podcasts, it's like, all right, I know who that person is. That was a cool talk, right?
Yeah.
But when you sit down with someone and you have a meal with them, and you're in their home, you feel a little bit different. Like David Marcus invited me into his home and
Yeah.
filmed there, and we had a really good conversation. I really got to understand him on a better level than I did before, and I don't know if I could have understood him to that degree, um, by just through webcam. You know,
Yeah.
so I think there's an intimacy that's there, and I'm hoping that it comes through on camera. I I haven't fully watched all of the Chloe Cole one, but I'm just saying from my gut,
Yeah.
like this one feels like especially intimate,
Yeah.
especially the way we were sitting on the couch, the way we were
Body
like,
language.
our body language. She was very relaxed, and the way, the topics that we were talking about, and me opening up to her, and vice versa. So I think it's a much different thing that is out there, and that's exactly why I wanted to do it. I resisted for a long time doing any video content.
Mhm.
But you can blame Ed Lattimore. Ed Lattimore told me like 3 times over a period of months. He's like, you got to do video. So when I finally decided to do video, I said I wanted to do something that is different than what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I was able to do it. I don't know if you want me to tell you like where the idea came from.
Yeah. No, I want to know. I would love to know, and I want everyone else to know, because I just think this is a beautiful concept that is lost on a lot of people, because we can connect, we can connect with people across the world via webcam. And I think it keeps a lot of people in their homes, like, oh, well, I can just do this here. I don't have to go out. Like, I don't have to, I
Mhm.
don't have to fly here or drive here. And I think I think it's one of the things that holds a lot of our culture back from, like, kind of coming back around to a time that we didn't have all this. Like,
Yeah.
we've OD'd on technology since we've gotten it, and now we need to sort of like detox a little bit. And
Mhm.
like I've started buying up physical media again. Like, it's great that it's online, but as it disappears because the services don't want it or they're cycling new stuff, it's like, no, I want access to that. Just like, I mean, I'm sure you get it, sitting with someone, and I think that when you eat with somebody, it's like one of the more vulnerable times that you see someone. I mean, they're either a complete slob or they're very well maintained. You learn a lot about someone by watching them eat. And that's not meant to be creepy or anything. It's just It's just how it is. And again, you sit down with someone and you're asking them questions. Like it could, things could be really tight, or you can get loose. And like you said, you and Chloe are just sitting on the couch. You got very open body language, probably. I think I did see that screenshot you posted. Open body language. You're feeling comfortable, like you're sitting with your brother, sister, cousin, whatever. And I think people getting back to that. I think getting people back to talking to one another one-on-one is really important, especially differing ideologies. But in person, there's nothing more important to me than that right now. So yeah, I would love to hear like where this whole thing spawned from.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you just said. I think it's incredibly important to have these types of conversations, and to not be so married to technology. And I say this as an IT guy.
Yeah.
I understand technology and I like it to a degree, but I also understand it hinders us in many ways and makes us lazier. It's like when my wife asks, I don't want to say her name, but the Amazon device that starts with an A, when she asks her like, what time is it? And it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's other ways. You don't have to talk to this device,
Right.
or turn off the light. It's like, you could just go over there and turn off the light.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I that's what it is. But as far as the concept goes, the concept came up because it's something that I was actually doing. Um, One of the reasons why I would say like a political awakening was because of open dialogue with people. And when I started traveling back in, geez, man, how long has it been now? I guess I started traveling in 2016. I started going back and forth between Europe, um, and just bouncing through different countries, sometimes going back because I made friends with people and just started interacting with all these different people. And one of my favorite things was just talking politics to people who weren't from the States, because everyone is interested in our politics. Uh,
Yeah.
and so like, I remember being in Barcelona talking to an Australian woman about American politics over some tapas. And
Wow.
we talked for like 2 hours and just having good conversation. Um, I remember I was in Amsterdam and I was in a hostel, and there's a kid from, I say kid, but he's like 18, 19.
Yeah.
And they were all about that age. They were all young, from Sweden, Korea, and China. And then myself, the American. And I said, have you ever wanted to ask an American any questions? And for over an hour, we just all talked to each other and asked each other questions, and had that dialogue, and got to understand maybe different cultures and things like that.
Yeah.
So it was a great learning experience. I've written about my friend, who's a British conservative, who opened my eyes a bit when it came to conservatism, and actually leading me to learn more about libertarianism. So, but I just happened to meet him in a pub in Madrid. So traveling opened me up to meeting all these different people from these different places,
Yeah.
all these different types of perspectives. And it got me to look at myself and take a deeper look and understand, like, what do I believe? What do I think? And become curious, even more curious. But the aspect of like sitting down and having political conversation with strangers, in many cases they were just strangers, or befriending these people, like the British conservative. My son got to meet him. We went to Madrid last November after a conference, and we stayed at his place. He just had a baby,
Wow.
and this was just a chance encounter, um, at some pub some years ago. So, and my wife met him too. We went to Madrid the year prior, and she got to meet him just before the baby was born. His girl was pregnant. So just all these different relationships happen because I just talk to people. So when I was presented with the idea, I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. I just want to talk to people, but like in a setting of eating some food and it being relaxed. And the other thing I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure that you can watch it.
Yeah.
Like Joe Rogan is great for a dialogue, but you don't have to watch it. Like there's video, but it's not designed necessarily for you to watch it.
Right.
I wanted something I wanted to create something that was visually appealing and, multi-camera angled and still has good audio. I'm still working on the audio. I've gotten 2 new mics. We're trying a different setup. I'm trying to get like my audio down, but you've been watching, the video's progressively gotten better. And
Yes.
the video is like, it's on point. How I want it to look is right there. And it can get better. That's what I was telling you about the camera upgrade.
Yeah.
Once that happens, then I'll start experimenting with some other features. But
can I say real quick, your
audio
with Ron Coleman, even in that busy restaurant, like was good. There's only a couple of times where I was like, ooh, like someone had yelled in the background or something like that.
Yeah.
But even that was done really well. So you could definitely tell you've put thought into this. And I mean, and yeah, you're right. Every single episode is like something has gotten just a bit better. And you're doing everything yourself? Like you're doing the editing and
everything.
Damn, bro. Wow.
Everything. Oh my God. But let me tell you, like this has been, so people understand, like I started with zero understanding about any of this stuff back in April.
Mm-hmm.
I was supposed to, I'm not even going to mention any names. I was supposed to work with someone, like I was supposed to work with this new, let's say, media company, and it ultimately didn't work out. But they were like, let's see what it looks like, because I pitched them the concept.
Yeah.
So I invested, bought the equipment, did all this other stuff. My pilot, since it was like 2 weeks, I think it was like 2 weeks prior, is when I pitched it, and I was like, fuck it, I guess I'm going to do this. So I bought all this equipment, and my pilot was going to take place in London. I had a flight already scheduled for London. I was going out there. I said, hey, if I'm going out there, I'm going to film some stuff. I had guests lined up who were basically friends. Yeah. And I think I filmed 4 or 5 and 1 was usable. And it was like, the video was okay, but the audio was bad. The audio was okay, but the video was bad. You know, it was just always something.
Yeah. We've all been there, by the way. It's just a thing that happens.
Oh my God. But it's been a great learning experience, figuring these things out over a period of time. Mm-hmm. But I'd love to get to a point where I can create like a documentary or some sort of like short film. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, it made me think of just, it made me think of that there was a Netflix show. Oh, who was doing it? It was just a bunch of celebrities, and I think they were mostly like vignettes of like celebrities talking, and they were kind of acting out, but some were like, it was like coffee and cigarettes or something like that. It was something really, but it was supposed to just sort of capture this kind of like whatever. And like, and then you have Seinfeld's thing that he did where he drives around and talks to other celebrities. I mean, those things are great, but like, it's not like, I feel like yours sort of captures, even though like some of them are more well-known names, like it just captures like what everyday people are actually doing or what they're talking or how they're talking. And that to me is like where it's most important, and I was going to say earlier about your new book. One of the things I love so much about like Thomas Sowell is that like you read his books and like some of the things that he's writing about are pretty like complicated stuff, but everything is very, very like digestible. Like anybody could pretty much pick up his book and understand what he's talking about. Because it feels like he's talking to the average American, not like, oh, you need to be up on every single study, you need to know what this term means, blah 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 blah, and that's kind of how I feel watching your show, and even reading your book. Like, was like, I feel like I'm identifying with this because it's a real person that's on the other side of the page,
Yeah.
and why that it invokes so much emotion is because like I feel this because it feels like someone real and not like, oh, this is someone who's like, oh, woe is me, smallest violin ever. It's like a real story happening. And it's, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's actually one of my pet peeves is when the writer or the author, whoever, talks above the audience.
Yeah.
Like they're just saying stuff. They didn't have to say it that way. They wanted to say it that way. So they sound smarter than they maybe actually are.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that says they don't respect the audience. Or what it's saying is, this isn't for you. It's for this group.
Yeah.
And they don't care that it alienates everybody else. It's for this small group of people who understands this lingo. And there's different types of writings. There's academic writing, and sometimes academic writing is really not for really much of anybody except for that small niche group of people. But
Right.
that's just how they learn how to write.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an academic. I didn't go to college. I didn't take any formal writing classes, but I'm just a regular guy who's worked in customer service pretty much his entire working career.
Yeah.
And I know how to talk to people, and I know how to communicate, and I know, like, I don't use too simplistic of terms,
Right.
but I know when this is not a familiar term. I always try to focus on a balance in vocabulary,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't go past that. So it's very easy to understand what I'm trying to say, because like I spent my life, especially in IT, having to explain why something is wrong
Yeah. Oh man.
to people who have no idea what this is. And I
Mm-hmm.
know what it sounds like when someone gives them all the technical jargon,
Yeah.
and then the person's frustrated, like, I don't know what any of that means.
Yeah.
Break it down for me.
Yeah.
And I say, you see that red box? Okay, I see the red box.
Yeah.
You have to talk to people like that so they understand. So I figure if you talk to people, if you respect people and meet them where they are,
Mm-hmm.
you can reach a wider net of people. And if the goal is for me to spread a message that I feel is important, then why would I alienate people? I want to make it clear and concise and not use vocabulary that is too difficult, but also not too simplistic.
Yeah. One of my very favorite like episodes of this show was I sat down with someone. Sorry, I'm kind of going back to what we were talking about like sort of like talking to people that you don't agree with. One of my very favorite episodes is with one of my good friends from high school who we don't agree on anything. Anytime I go on Facebook and post something, he's usually the first person to comment on it. So we sat down on this show and we sort of talked about things because he's back in Connecticut where I grew up, and I'm out here in Salt Lake area, and I couldn't get back there and to sit down and talk. But we kind of found like, well, when we weren't trying to, because even like in social media, a lot of times people tend to use words they wouldn't use like in a personal setting. Like you might try and like shine someone on with some technical jargon or, vernacular that, and on Twitter, but you're not going to do that if you're sitting across from them. You're going to be respectful because you don't want to get punched in the face or slapped or whatever. So like with him, like I do respect him as a person, and I want him to know like we have a history. We were good friends. We played video games growing up. We shared so many memories, but we just disagree on this stuff. But ultimately, as you said, we were in a place that we agreed on, like there's a problem here. What the solution is? Well, we couldn't come up with what the solution was because we couldn't, maybe there was information that was missing, but we still at the end were like, you're a good person, man. Like I miss you. You're good. You're a good dude. And I'm sure you found the same thing with actually sitting with people, is like when you don't talk down to them,
Mhm.
you have a much better response. Like you said, just creating like, I see you, you're human, I'm a human. Like let's get to the bottom of it. I mean, I think a lot of us don't have. I mean, we understand what the problem might be, but like, what's the solution?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I could, I could guess all day long what the issue is, but I'm gonna be right. I do know that it's going to take. I've said this a lot. I mean, this is a generational issue. It's not a. You and I are going to sit here, come up with the answer, and then tomorrow see change. It's like it's going to take you writing another book. It's going to take 100 more podcasts. It's going to take another 100 breaking breads. And then people to see those, be
Mhm.
like, I see what's going on. And I'll tell you a quick story. Like today, I brought my son wanted to go on a bike ride down the street. He's like, let's go around the block. I was like, okay. So we start going, then we get to the end of the road, and right across the street is just a little park for
Mhm.
the elementary school. He's like, I want to go over there. He saw some kids playing. So we go over there, and he starts riding around. He's like cutting them off. And I'm like, dude, make sure you don't cut anyone off. Make sure you're not in their game. He's like, okay. And then he starts like kind of circling them and stops and starts talking. And these kids are probably 11, 12, 13, somewhere around there, much older than him.
Mhm.
And it kind of struck me for a moment that like one of the things I got to do is just lead by example. I know that sounds silly, like, well, of course you lead by example, but I thought this is a moment. And what I did was I was just kind of walking around the basketball court. I just turned to him. I said, "Hey, thank you for like entertaining my son. Like, thank you for talking to him. It's very cool of you." And one of them just said, "Yeah, no problem," and that was it. And I just thought that's the kind of stuff that I think is missing. And it might be missing from their lives. And even if it's not, it's just reinforcing good behavior that they might already be seeing.
Mhm.
Um, and and those are the things like going to hit the light switch and just, picking up your phone with your finger, not with like pick up phone or whatever.
Mhm.
People need to quote unquote do the work a little bit, interact with people, because it's easy to ignore people you don't know. And as you know, engaging people you don't know sometimes leads to lifelong friendships
Yeah.
and answers to questions you might have, or just knowledge you didn't have before. um so that's where I just thought this is a start. I could make a difference maybe here.
Yeah.
And the kids didn't ignore me. They very well could have been the snotty little kids and been like, yeah, but they didn't. They said no, no problem. So I thought that was really cool. But like I said, I don't know what the answers are. I just know that it's a combination of, well, we can utilize the technology we have and reach as many people as we can, but on top of it, we need to go back to, as you said, turning the light switch on by ourselves and not
Mhm.
just engaging everything with our devices, because that'll teach us like, sometimes walking. And as you know, there's a huge benefit to walking and to pushing your body beyond its limits at times.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Is it something like cultural change? Is this something that comes up in your conversations a lot?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people are worried about the changes in culture. Um, you know, especially from a I talk to a lot of late millennials like myself, so a lot of
Hmm.
people around my age group. And what's interesting about our age group is that we remember the 90s, you know.
Yeah.
Um, those are formative years for people like myself. Like I graduated in 2002 from high school. So like, in the 90s I was in high school, I was in middle school. I remember all these different cultural things that happened. I remember the vibe
Yeah.
in TV and entertainment. I remember pre-internet, right? Or I especially remember early days of the internet.
Yeah.
So, with all this technological advancement, it's a lot different than someone like who's like a, let's say, a baby boomer. where it might be like it's like the Flintstones, like
Yeah.
that they've seen.
Yeah.
But like for us, it's a little bit different because it wasn't that long ago,
Yeah.
right? It's not like it was 60 years ago. It's like it wasn't that long ago when Twitter didn't exist,
Hmm.
when the internet was around, but it was just incredibly slow, right?
Yeah.
So like, and I remember just before the internet as well. So it's kind of like there's the advancement of microprocessors has really just like make technology just explode in advancement in a
Hmm.
very short period of time, and we watched it. So it feels a lot different, but we remember what the culture was like, and it feels like with the technological advancement uh, being so advanced in such a short period of time, culture has changed so quickly in such a short period of time. And I kind of see it almost one in one.
Yeah.
Um, with the advancement of technology, you have a way of having like an assimilated culture all around the world.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, I'll put it like this. I remember back in the day, like back, and when I say back in the day, I mean like when we had cassette tapes,
Yeah.
right? Or when you had like you knew the new hot song was on the radio, like
Yeah.
I like those days. I remember learning how um, there might be a song that came out in like Miami that was big, and it took maybe months before it like made its way to New York.
Yeah.
Because it was either word of mouth or whatever, for whatever reason.
Hmm.
Like it was big regionally, and then it took a while to become like a national hit song.
Yep.
Like it took quite some time. Um, and and it reminds me like I went to Hungary, and they were playing like I went to a club in Hungary in Budapest, and they were playing, and this wasn't that long ago. They were playing like Missy Elliott, but they were rocking it like it was new.
Yeah.
I was
That's
just
funny.
like, did it just get here?
Yeah.
I was kind of wondering that. That's what it kind of reminded me of. But like that's how slow things happen. And imagine if like there's like this sensational song that happens now, it not only spreads across the country in a matter of days and becomes a hit in a matter of days, but it becomes a hit around the world. And as
Yeah.
someone who's at least bounced around Europe, and I've introduced like this all over the place, American music is just consumed by everybody.
Yeah.
Like I remember being in Germany, almost every song I heard was an American song. It
Wow.
was in English. Like I'm in taxi cabs. I'm walking around. I'm listening to people play music from their cars. All the songs were in English. The most bizarre thing, I say bizarre, but it was just like your mind blows as to how impactful it was. And I wish I could remember the song. I was in a bar. I was in a pub that was in Munich, and I know everybody that was there was German. I know for
Mhm.
sure. And they had a live band that was playing, and they played some like late 90s ballad song. I can't remember which song it was. Everyone sang the words. And I was like, where the fuck am I? Like, because that would never happen here.
Right.
Like, unless it's like some popular Spanish song and everybody in the bar was Spanish. Like,
Right. Yeah.
like that's the only way that something happened like that. But like that wouldn't happen here. And that's how like I use that as an example as how fast our culture is able to spread to all these other places
Hmm.
because of technology. And our the American cultural influence is really influential, whether it's via movies or music or TV shows. Their favorite movies are American movies. Their favorite TV shows are American TV shows. Favorite music is American music. And if the American culture shifts, like so does the world.
That's what's so scary. And because I think that's where the change to whatever the popular thing is now is influenced largely from America. But
Mhm.
it feels like the change back, or not even back, because I guess everything moves forward technically, right?
Yeah.
So like it just seems like you need our country to like make the decision to like, okay, we're leaving that behind now, but it's time to move on to the next thing. It just doesn't. I don't know. In the last what 4, let's say 6 years, where things have been kind of turbulent, there seems to be like a bit of stagnation where people are like, okay, we need the next thing to change because this is out of hand. Uh,
Mhm.
and I don't know. I did see something that was interesting today, today actually, that millennials are they're like one of the first generations in a long time that's had like for media alone has had to watch like they've gone from okay it was a record now it goes on a tape then you after you collected all these tapes oh sorry those are obsolete now you got to get all these things called CDs and
CDs. Yep.
then in almost a shorter time I said oh those CDs those are obsolete now it's we just throw all those out and it's this invisible thing that goes on your computer and you still got to pay 99 cents for it so and then there's the whole HD DVD and Blu-ray and VHS like all this stuff like all this technology that we had collected and relied on for years and consumed had constantly been thrown out and disposed of and few generations before us really had to deal with that. I mean, largely associated with the microprocessor and stuff like that. Like our
Mhm.
everything just like straight up once that um hit everything. And so it begs the question of like what's next that's gonna, steer us away and out of this storm because it's like the damage is done. There was so much information, there was so much influence pushed through the world and now everyone's trying to course correct like hold on but at the same time we're in what it feels like and we could be wrong is that
Mhm.
we have a very polarized political system here in the US and that is what's being focused on around the world where like the middle section is where most people lie I would say and they
Right.
don't hold extreme views left or right but the world believes that it's if you're Democrat you're over here if you're a Republican you're over here and you're like not really like I kind of share both views from both sides I don't really think all this stuff and it just begs the question like where well hello there what's next and how do we steer out of the storm because it's just a sad and scary storm to be in right now
So actually, so you were talking about how we went from like CDs basically to digital,
yeah
but there's actually there's like another jump from there. So going from CDs to digital was like going from CDs to like your iPod. So while it was digital, you still had to have it in some sort of file format in your possession within your device.
true
We went from that to now cloud. It's
yeah
now cloud based. So now
yep
we stream everything. That's actually like the next front because it used to be a big thing. It was like how much file size do I get with my phone? It's
yep
like no, it doesn't matter that much now because everything you want to listen to isn't within a cloud. It's in some service that you can just stream
uh-huh.
and because our speeds have become more reliable, our networks become faster. So that's even another jump. Because I remember like I used to collect all these MP3s. I don't collect anything anymore.
Yeah.
Um, but so the reason why everything appears polarizing, and I've been wanting to write something about this, maybe sometime soon. Uh, there's money in making you feel crazy, and there's money in dividing us. So and this is a bipartisan strategy. There's there's an economy around making you believe that A, you're alone, and B, no one agrees with each other. And so as long as you believe that, as long as that's the basis of it, they got you.
Yeah.
And so if you adhere to a particular side, they will say that anybody who's on the opposite side is the worst version of that side, right? So
Mhm.
anybody who's a Democrat wants to mutilate kids and is some Antifa loving, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And if you're on the left, anybody who's on the right is some like MAGA crazy person, white supremacist, you name it, all, all the buzzwords.
Yeah.
And they try to make it appear like there is no in between. And it's because division works. Division makes a lot of people paranoid, fearful, and it makes the people who are causing the division a lot of money. There's a reason why a lot of like the political content that we see is of owning the libs or owning, let's show off that crazy MAGA person, right?
Yeah.
Everything is very adversarial, and it's playing on our need for group orientation and validating our group orientation, right?
Yeah.
You should remain a Republican because all those Democrats are crazy. And I'll show you an example of a Democrat that's crazy. I see this so many times. I've seen this stuff with like red pill content. Feminists do this as well. They take the example of a bad situation and extrapolate it and say this is what it's like most of the time or every single time when it's done by some man. Red pill guys do it all the time. We have all of these different podcasts where they literally bring on sex workers and ask them questions like they're the typical girl who's dating.
Oh my God. I know what you're talking about, dude.
And I'm like, no, they're not. They're sex workers.
Right.
Like, and they're like, see guys, this is the modern woman.
Yeah.
Right. Or what they do is they cherry pick news articles that end up in the Daily Mail.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking like, in the United States alone, there are over 330 million people that exist here.
Mm-hmm.
You're bound to find a horror story. Like, and that, so people have to question, like, why do you know about this story? Why do you know about this lying woman who cheated on her husband and did X, Y, and Z? Why do you know about that particular story? There's a reason why.
Yeah.
Why did they overlook this good thing that happened? Why are they only talking about this? Like, I watch the media all the time. The right sometimes talks about stories that the left doesn't and vice versa.
Yeah.
Why? And it's because it benefits them to do that, right? It makes the other side look bad. It makes the other side look crazy or whatever it might be, but it works.
Yeah.
Right. So like I've asked people to question themselves, like the black crime propaganda videos.
Yeah.
We know, yes, okay, disproportionate amount of violent crime is committed by Black Americans. But ask yourself, why is 90+% of the crime videos on the political right shared on Twitter featuring Black Americans? We know that not 90% of violent crime is committed by Black Americans, yet 90+% of violent crime videos shared amongst the right are Black Americans. Why is that the case? And you get this this type of reaction, but it's a logical question.
Yeah.
And it's to make people question, like, yeah, how come that's the only violent crime videos that I see?
Yeah.
And it's because someone is playing on a particular narrative. Someone is playing on your fear. Someone is trying to push you closer to the edge. And I just wish more people question the media, even the media of a particular side that they tend to agree with, because guess what? They're doing the same thing. So some outlets are more honest than others, but they all leave out this detail. They all like misinterpret or misquote this, like not misquote. The headline misinterprets or simplifies what the
Oh,
person's saying.
yeah.
Everybody does that, and
I
it's
can't.
like, oh, it's annoying.
Yeah, and I can't. That's the things that I can't stand. Is I encourage people. It's like, just you got to read past the headlines, because like the awful thing that Twitter has done is basically said, or social media in general, is take what this says as gospel.
Mhm.
Everything you see on this tweet is true. But most headlines nowadays, especially because they're doing exactly what you say, is they're deceiving the reader. If you click on that headline or that article and read into it, I mean, I've read like CNN articles and left leaning news articles that have these like crazy headlines, like disparaging Republicans, and then you open it and it's like it's not even that bad, and like they don't even like have the same words in the article, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what? Or the headline in the article will be different than the headline that's on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. I'm like, that to me is like abhorrent behavior. Like that to me, like lie, and because it's one thing to lie and deceive like your friend, right? Like
Mhm.
that's still bad. But you're talking about you're lying to a global society. When you're talking about social media, it's not just Americans, it's not just regionally. You're not at a town hall meeting saying, well, you know, you're talking about and these companies are American run companies. Twitter, Facebook. I mean, they're all based in the US. They operate
Yep.
globally, but I mean, this is all stuff. And even you know what? I'm all for free speech, but like even I even look at Elon sometimes in the similar way that I look at Trump, in that like I feel like there is some responsibility to not be a troll constantly. And I know that totally violates like free speech, like, the idea of it, but like I can't help but think like normal people are sitting there like, come on, dude, like you can't like there's some things that you probably shouldn't say to, you know, um 8 billion people or whatever, 5 billion people that might
Mhm.
be on social media. Um, but I also, I want to encourage open discourse, but I want people to think, question what you're seeing and understand the time that we're living in, because information gets around quick. And as you said, so much money is there to be made,
Right.
um, by polarizing people in politics, and that sucks. Um, and I don't know if the everyday person understands that. I think you and me talking about it, and if like you and I said something to our like normie friends, they might be like, What? That sounds a little crazy. Like, where did you hear that? Fox News, you know what I mean? Like it would turn into this like weird thing. But like, I mean, it's true. People are making money because we're scared and we're avoiding something, or we're buying something because of it, or we're just, I mean, now Twitter being what it is and paying engagement, right? Like I don't know if you're one of the people that got into the monetization part of it, but like
Mhm.
I mean, you see more like troll content now than you ever did before. I honestly don't know what to believe when I see stuff on there. Is this someone that's just trying to make stuff up, and just get paid, or is this a real headline? Like, should I be worried? You know what I mean? Like, I shouldn't have to. Like, I have to do that now when I go on Twitter. That sounds awful.
Yeah. Well, the one silver lining is that I never thought I'd really say this, but I think in this context, I think it's good. Um, Twitter is demonetizing those particular accounts, and I don't even think demonetization is the worst thing in the world. You're not guaranteed anybody's money.
Right.
Um, and especially if you have outrageous content, uh, I mean, it makes sense if advertisers don't want their advertisements next to someone who is a Nazi or who's saying outlandish stuff about women or men or
Mhm.
whatever. Like that makes sense if they're not interested in that, or if X is trying to not put their advertisers at risk of having their content show up in that line and someone take a screenshot. You support this, you know?
Yeah.
like no advertiser really wants that. No business owner or company, corporation wants that. So yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with demonetization because it makes sense sometimes.
Mhm.
Um, if you're just creating outrage just to create outrage and hoping to make profit from it, then it sounds like you're trying to game the system.
Yeah,
Um, and I don't know, even casinos kick out people who try to game the system. So it's just like,
it's a good
you
point.
know, um,
I
so
guess my
I don't really,
fear. Oh,
yeah.
sorry. Well, I was saying, I guess my fear is like and I hate using this word. I really do. It's unprecedented the type of information flow that we're seeing, and I think that's what is scary. Is that I don't think people realize the kind of influence that they're experiencing. Like
Mhm.
everyone's like we're in like a strange like one flew over the cuckoo's nest like we're not doing that, but in a lot of ways we are because I mean, and I was talking about this on one of my live streams the other day. Like you, the information you're getting on Twitter is constantly being fed to you. Like we were talking about in the context of like drama content. People are like, well, Jerry Springer's always been around, and Judge Judy's been around, and Maury's been around. I'm like, yeah, but that was stuff that you watched like for an hour during the day and then or maybe 2 hours, let's say, and then it was off, you
Right.
know. But this is something like Twitter is something that's on your phone, and in like worst case scenario, it's pinging you every single time you're mentioned or like the accounts you like tweet. You know what I mean? And that is again, I don't like the word, but it's unprecedented. We have not been fed information like this ever in our lives. Like people used to walk away from it. And since taking the Twitter app off my phone, I like again sort of realized like it's great to come back to my computer and have a bunch of notifications of stuff that's going on, and not
Mhm.
just being like, oh, what's that? What's that? What's that? What's that? Um, and I hope people learn and they can tune into people like yourself, even me to an extent, and realize like unplugging is a really good idea sometimes. And um, you know, it's overused in our sphere sometimes, but like touching grass, like getting outside and like seeing the sunshine, it's a great thing. You don't need to be
Yeah.
online. Um, Sparking up conversations with people you don't know, which I understand is a skill in and of itself. It is hard to tell people, especially nowadays. It seems like every single person has like some anxiety disorder and they can't even talk to their mother. Um, so
That's
I
why.
hope right,
That's why they have anxiety disorder. It's like it's a muscle. Like if you don't use it, it's going to
true,
atrophy. And
yeah,
if you avoid people your entire life, then you're not going to be comfortable talking to people when you do it. You have to go if you weren't raised in that, you have to go through the uncomfortableness of talking to people. And then it won't be uncomfortable anymore. You'll just become familiar with it, you know? And I think people are making it sound like we are one conversation away from being broken when no, it's just like anything else. You lift weights to build muscle, right?
mhm,
And and that's what you have to do. You have to constantly engage people and talk to people. you know it's like talking to women, right? When you're young, you have no experience talking to girls.
mhm,
So like some boys get it, right? Maybe they have an older brother or somebody who kind of like makes them hip to the game, right?
yeah,
But most boys don't, and most boys are a little bit awkward when they talk to girls.
mhm,
But over a period of time, like you get rejected enough, you talk to enough girls, you kind of figure out like, all right, I won't do this. I won't talk to her like she's my bro.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that won't work. And hopefully you kind of figure it out, but you have to go through the motions. You have to make mistakes. You have to go through the uncomfortableness, and and then it'll eventually work out. So like you have to go through all these things. And I say this as someone who had social anxiety. Um, and I am completely over that. So I had to literally go through all that, and traveling was a big part of it. But you have to go through all this stuff to make it to the other side. Um, so yeah, I mean, But conversations don't even have to be difficult. Like in-person conversations don't have to be difficult. It
No.
you have to listen.
Yeah.
I think people have a hard time listening.
Yeah.
They just want to say, and they're not actually listening. They have a preloaded statement that they want to have, and they want to throw it out, but they're not actually listening to what the person's saying.
Well, they're like, it's like they're listening for a word they think they're going to say. And because that's when that pre-taped like response comes in.
Hmm.
Like they're just, people are, what's the saying? They're listening. They're not listening to respond. They're listening to, I can't even remember what the actual term is, but yeah, it's not actually listening. They're hearing, and they're just kind of going through the motion of listening. And,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate because just like talking or, having a conversation, that listening part is a skill in and of itself. And some people have it and some people don't. And there's varying degrees of how good people are at it. Uh,
Hmm.
and, and I tell people all the time too, because there's a meetup coming in Las Vegas for a lot of the people that we know. And we or that I know that are in the kind of geek sphere. And I tell people, I'm like, hey, I'm a hugger. Like when I meet you, like if you tell me who you are, if you're someone who doesn't have their camera on, or if you're a viewer that I've never seen, I'll give you a hug, because it's just how I've always been. Just, hey, I want to embrace. Just, hey, how's it going? You don't have to like hold me, but I just, what I've been told. And like same thing with the handshake. I'll generally, like, I might not hug you when I leave, but if you're a fairly close acquaintance or like a professional one, I'll almost always shake your hand. Like it's
Hmm.
just a point of respect. I just think the physical contact part of things is also important in human communication, because it kind of shows like, hey, I see you, and like, not to sound dumb, but like, I love you, like to some degree. Like it's good to, and I'm sure you've shared hugs and handshakes with the people, off camera or whatever. And it's something that, I'm sure that they appreciate, because some people just want to be seen as a human, and not just like, oh, you're that person from Twitter, or you're that person from LawTube or whatever. Like I see you, like you're important. Um,
Yeah.
but no, man, I I could talk with you all night, and I know you have an early day, and I'm gonna cut against my better judgment. We'll stop here. We should definitely revisit at an earlier time, so we can kind of get maybe a part two of this conversation, because I think there's a lot to talk about, and I think you have a lot of good insight into what the world should focus on you know, over the next decade, we'll say. There's a lot to do. And
Yeah.
I think for you being, I mean, you're the everyday person who has a lot of wisdom and kind of understands what we need to do. And so thank you for joining me tonight. I know it's much later than usually on, but
Yeah.
what can the chat expect from you in the coming weeks? What do you got coming up?
More episodes of Breaking Bread. I have like 7 episodes in the chamber. Um, so more, I'm trying to release an episode a week. And the modeling campaign, that should be out, I believe, March 18th. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe to my Substack for updates on that. www.adambcoleman.com. And yeah, just writing articles for the posts. Same as usual. I will say this on a more personal note.
Hmm.
I'm building out my office. Um, so my son is 18 now, and you know, he's working, he has a car, and he has his own life, essentially. So he doesn't come. Well, I haven't seen him in a bit, but he doesn't come over as often as before. And so the spare room that we had, he would occasionally sleep in. We're turning that into an office and making use of the space until we can purchase a home, hopefully next year or sometime. So you're gonna not see my kitchen anymore very soon.
Oh, thank God. Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. It'll make my wife really happy because she doesn't have to be confined to a room. She's asleep right now, anyways.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but no, I'm looking forward to that. I have all this camera equipment and stuff like that, and I think it will also help to have me do like some more standalone videos quicker,
Yeah.
rather than like having to set up everything and all new out here. Um, so yeah, I'm trying to come up with different ways of being creative, improve on the video craft, and yeah, and just kind of take it day by day.
Well, if you don't already know, you're definitely an inspiration. You work really extremely hard. And again, I look forward to what you have coming out, your new episodes of Breaking Bread. Uh, Everyone in chat, please, and people who are watching after the fact or listening after the fact, please subscribe to Adam, adambcoleman.com. Check out his Substack. Does a lot of great writing. Like I said, even in the short time we were able to talk tonight, I hope you guys got a little a little info about him. But we'll definitely do a part 2 as soon as we can. Again, thank you again, Adam. Thank you, chat, and everyone listening. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. See you next time.
Peace.